listening to your body is the way to go. It really makes sense when you are trying to start something new. So like what you're doing is perfect because what you're doing is you're making an intention into a routine. So when you make it a routine, that's when you know you've hit on something that's going to work for you.
Cue music. Places, everybody places. We're starting in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Autoimmune Hour, where we look at the rise of autoimmune disorders. I've brought together top experts that range from doctors, specialists, nutritionists, researchers, and even those recovering from autoimmune to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information about autoimmunity and how to live your life uninterrupted.
Thank you for joining us here on the Autoimmune Hour with Sharon Sayler. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio. Join the Autoimmune Hour's Courage Club. Sign up now at understandingautoimmune.com. Now, back to your host, Sharon Sayler.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com and, of course, from UnderstandingAutoimmune.com, where you can find over 400 and probably around 60 episodes now and climbing. I know we're getting close to the 500. Can't wait. Anyway, I'm so happy to be here with you tonight. I know it's the end of the year, beginning of the new year, all of that good stuff. And so who better to invite back than Roberta Mittman, our in-house accountability person, resilience person, life rescripting person. And so I invited Roberta Mittman back. Let me give you a brief detail about her. If you haven't seen her before, check out all our previous chats too, because Roberta Mittman, she brings decades of medical, scientific, and holistic knowledge to her holistic life coaching practice to heal clients from the inside out. If you suffer from chronic stress, anxiety, overwhelm, fears, sensitivity, or body acceptance issues, and desire a new blueprint for your wellness journey, Roberta is the one to call because she takes on these challenges in a unique blend of modern psychology, Chinese medicine principles, and an emotional component she calls rescripting. That's her proprietary technique that helps you change how you see your world, how you function in your world, and it provides a fast, effective, and gentle results. So we're going to talk about that today as well. And really, rescripting or scripting for 2024, setting us off on the right foot. So welcome, Roberta. Thanks for being here.
Oh, Sharon, thank you. It's always such a pleasure. It's so much fun to be here and chat with you.
I love it. I love it. You're looking awesome. Thanks for doing this. I know at the beginning of the new year.
That's the best time. I love to help people chat about getting off to an excellent start.
Now, I know you have really strong feelings about the word resolution. So let's start there. Tell us why you're not a fan of resolutions.
I think that it is very much entwined with negative emotions. When you hear a New Year's resolution, it's like, oh, okay, that's made to be broken. So I am in favor of the concept when done a certain way that's going to actually work for somebody. But I also like to think about using it in different words for that. It could be a semantic difference, like using goals or intentions or whatever. But New Year's resolutions are usually so broad, so general, unachievable, and totally forgotten. Science says 2 to 4 months, and that's it. So I don't know. Well, people may be thinking this is going to be till 2025, but I doubt it.
Yes, the statistics don't hold out, do they? And you're right. I hadn't thought about resolutions starting from a negative place. Most resolutions are I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to get in shape. And it's all about bringing up the failures or how did I get here or what happened.
Such hard work. Who wants to really do that after a while? The honeymoon wears off. When the excitement is done, the novelty wears off. So that's the other thing.
Especially for me, weight loss goals. Making achievable numbers that I can celebrate is so much easier for me than having a great big number. You look at it and all you do is do the math. A half a pound off a big number, it's oh, who cares? But if it's a half pound off of a doable number, it's like, okay, like 25% there, or I'm 20% there.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. That's really a good point. So what does a doable number mean to you? First of all, I'm not a fan of diets as being a resolution. To me, it's like having a better sustainability plan with food in general and eating well. It's natural for people to go to the diet place and want to lose weight. I mean, that's just the way it is. And some of the goals and the resolutions are just not achievable and will probably bring a sense of failure at the end of the day. And no one's learned anything from it. Some people, they just starve until they just can't do it anymore. And then they give up because your body's not designed to be deprived.
Oh, and especially if you're doing the starvation diet with an autoimmune, you're just compounding and probably setting yourself up maybe for a flare or something. Your body's just going to say, okay, I'm doing enough here to keep this autoimmune under control. And now you're starving me. Give me the foods that I need. We have a mutual friend, Dr. Halleck, and what would you call it? Unnecessary calories, or I'm trying to think of the word. Hopefully,
What was it? Something like, yeah.
anyway, I'll come up with it, guys. Hopefully, but I just had to laugh when I heard it. It was like ineffective calories, ineffective calories, and I'm like,
That's right. There you go.
what are my ineffective calories? Even with those, though, I have found that when I say, okay, I'm giving up sugar, that's gone within maybe 36 hours or something. The willpower is only so much. But if I can modify that and say things like, okay, I'm only going to have one treat with sugar in it today, then I don't feel so starved, whether that's whatever it is, a cookie, or I splurge and I put a little sugar in my tea or something, whatever it is. But that way, maybe it's like dipping my toe in the shallow end instead of jumping into the deep end.
Just really perfect because it's also a great illustration of what's called SMART goals, because that's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. It's like a really great way to look at it because you check those boxes and
Yeah.
it's much more achievable. So that's really great.
Well, achievable is important even in our health goals. Sometimes we've got to be realistic in how long it takes something to happen, for the body to heal, for the body to change. And it's so surprising to me how fast it does, considering sometimes the amount of assault on the body. But we still have to be realistic that I'm not going to wake up tomorrow 25 pounds lighter.
Oh, that's so smart. Absolutely. And choosing like what, not necessarily you're going to cut out something. If you change it, I'm going to add one fruit and one vegetable to my meals every day. That's like it's a kind of a positive thing because you're not taking anything out, you're adding it in, which is sometimes it's a positive spin on making a change that's sustainable. I liked yours too. I thought yours example was great.
I have a lot of fruits that I like that would definitely fake my head out that it was sweet enough to be sugar.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. That's really perfect. And for someone like myself who's just not a fan of diets because science is proving that they just don't work. I mean, that's just my personal bias from my own research. I'm not making this blank statement. But if people understood that starting a diet on January 1st is not perhaps the best plan is to have a sustainable way of eating through the year that you can stick to. Even if you go off for a little bit, you come back. That is like the best way to have weight balance, not just something that you do on Monday. And then the next Monday you said, I got to start another diet,
Well, just as you were saying the word diet, I was starting to take the word apart in my head, and die, and it just doesn't, no wonder I hate it.
I'm just hoping that people, if they want to use New Year's to make resolutions in a positive way, the right way, and it can even extend to their physical health in terms of exercise. Some people would rather go into the exercise area in terms of making that goal, right?
Well, that's well known that you go to the gym on January 1.
People take my favorite machines because I live in a building, there's not a lot of people in the gym. So I see January 6th and I go, okay, let's see how many of you are going to be back. February 1st, it's all mine again. They're gone. Really? So like just kind of moving more in the year might be somebody's idea of a good goal. And that way you can make it like, I'm going to run a marathon. Well, okay, but that needs some planning and it needs to like, I'm going to start by adding so many steps per day or per week or something like that. So there's different ways of boosting your health and your movement through starting in the new year. If you think about it in small terms that are doable, like 3 days a week for 20 minutes, things like that make really good sense.
And not to go overboard. I know our friend
That's
Dr. Halleck is running a marathon, our friend, and bravo. But he's been training since 2022 or something like that for it. He was encouraging me talking about with autoimmune. One of the things that is really powerful was just walking, and whether you just walk down your street a little bit and come back, and that's all you do. But how the movement and the using your muscles and strengthening your bones was a great way to do it. If you can't lift weights or anything like that, he said just walk and
right.
work your way up to around the block or maybe a half a mile. And so I've been doing that and I like it. I'm feeling it.
Bravo.
Yeah. And also to really give myself a pat on the back, after doing it, even if there are some days, guys, that I have to tell you, I'm lucky I make it around the block. But that's okay because I can check off like, yeah, I made it around the block. And then there's other days that I've walked a couple of miles and I'm like, it felt good. I wasn't going to do that point where you get a mile out there and go, how am I going to get home, right?
Exactly.
I was listening to my body on like, okay, how far can I go? Oftentimes I didn't set out to go, I'm only going to go around the block. But as I got into the walk, I'm like, okay, for whatever reason, I'm just not feeling that I have enough energy or strength to go that 2-mile route that I love. So I just go around the block, and if I'd get back to my starting location and go, I think I could make it up and down the street 2 more times. Just doing that, but listening to my body, what it was saying.
Yeah, listening to your body is the way to go. And it really makes sense when you are trying to start something new. So like what you're doing is perfect because what you're doing is you're making an intention into a routine. So when you make it a routine and it's kind of like after a while, it's like brushing your teeth. I'm just going to go for my walk. That's when you've hit on something that's going to work for you.
Absolutely. Now, I like walking with other people. That's great. But I have a friend who uses the storybooks, the audiobooks or whatever, and likes to listen to those and things like that. And I have another friend that catches up on her phone calls on her walk. So every so often, my phone will ring and I'll answer and you could tell she's out there putting in her steps. To me, it was an easy thing to incorporate because you can get things done. Like you can listen to the Autoimmune Hour podcast on your walk, right?
That's perfect. That's right. Yes, I know. There's some things that you can either learn or, have inspirational messages. There's so much out there or you can have silence. And sometimes I listen to something that kind of guides you through a walk. Say, okay, now you're going to, with music and the pace of the music, the tunes change and say, okay, like pick up the pace now, slow down. And it just kind of helps you like vary it a little bit and makes it fun. And I wind up like having a better workout with that sometimes than left to my own devices.
Well, don't leave me to my own devices. I love that where you said intention into habit. I think that's I like that much better than resolution. And maybe because I just, in my lifetime, have broken so many resolutions that I just have a negative mindset around it. Or it hasn't ever worked in all the previous years. Why would it work now? So I'm adopting that intention into habit. I like that.
And it's something that's got to kind of grow with you. Because if resolutions like that only last 2 to 4 months, then you're going to have to kind of like, then what?
Or
So
why
it's
bother
like,
came to my mind.
okay, there you go. So if you have like an intention and you're making a routine about walking, as you get stronger, you can add different things to it. You know what I'm saying? And it can grow along with you. And that makes perfect sense. So it just doesn't like come to an end or whatever, or modify it if it's not working for you. But one of the things I also wanted to mention is having an accountability partner is always a good idea too. Like a buddy that you can say, okay, I'm doing this today. And if for some reason you just feel like you just need a little push out the door, well, you can count on them to do that.
A little pep talk.
So having an accountability partner or meeting someone and walking or doing things like that, sometimes that really cements the deal.
So weight loss obviously is kind of the big thing that people always talk about, and we've talked about some tips around that. What are some other things that you see people struggle with at the beginning of the year? It's not like we couldn't do any of these things the second day of the year, the 10th day of the year, the second month of the year.
Well, there's a lot of different things that we could do. And one of the things, I'm happy to see just a bunch of them. And sometimes what people do that I've heard about is they do one thing instead of like doing one thing for the whole year. They do one thing a day for a year. You could choose what's the one thing that you're going to do for yourself every day. Like that's a goal. Or you can choose 52 things in 52 weeks. So that way people can kind of cover it. And then what I was talking to you about was the concept, which is really very popular now, is the word of the year. So if everyone takes a second and thinks about a word that they want to claim as this is their kind of motto for the year, this is their theme song for the year, that can stay with you. And you can always go back to that and remind yourself for inspiration.
I would have to sit down with a piece of paper and write down a bunch of words. One word comes to mind, but I'm not sure how functional it is. Does it have to be a functional word?
No, there are lists and lists, Sharon. If you go like online of words of the year suggestions, there are tons of resources for helping you find the right word. And I mean, I'm surprised to see them, all those words, but there's a lot of ideas out there.
Oh, see, that would be helpful. One word does come to mind, but I don't know why it comes to mind. I almost feel like I need to sit with it for a little bit to go like, why right now is that word coming to my mind? Maybe it is my word for the year, or maybe it's just my word for the moment. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
So I just like put into search engines word of the year and see what pops up.
You'll see, you'd be surprised. There's like list after list. So I actually, I'm going to just blurt out mine just because we're here. So I love the word flow. So I like to go with the flow, be in the flow, which means for me, like ease and like a little bit of gentleness and surrender and just having things work out the way they should work out for me. That's when I'm doing what I love and when I'm like in my flow, that's kind of when I'm at peace and the happiest. So that's my word for the year, flow. And I will
Great word.
you and let you know.
My word is, I guess, similar. I'm not saying this is my word, guys. It's just the one that popped into my head. I got to think about it a bit. But adaptability came up.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure why. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure if it's the word of the day or if it's the word of the
It's a
week.
good word.
But adaptability came up, which sort of reminds me of flow. Maybe not as graciously, but sort of reminds me of flow. That might be it, guys. But put in your comments. I would love to know what you.
Yeah. Well, I'm voting for adaptability.
Okay.
Yes, I like that one. That sounds like a good one. If it comes to you, it's got to be like meaningful for you. I think that's the important thing.
Yeah. And right now it's meaningful, but I got to sit with it to think if it's meaningful for another 52 years, 52 weeks. One thing that you and I've chatted about before, and I just love the topic and I want to make sure we have time to talk about it.
Sure.
Is you have a question that you ask a lot, and that's, what are you tolerating?
Yes.
I think that's really a profound question to stop and think about, what am I tolerating? Whether some people immediately go external when they hear that, like, my family, my friends, my work, and other people go internal. I find it such an interesting question that, like, what are you tolerating? Make a list of what you're tolerating.
Yes. Mhm. I always ask my clients to do that. A huge list. And I say at least 50 things. And when you run out of things, just make it to 50 because then you can dig deeper. And it's important because there are things that sometimes you wouldn't think like, wait a minute, I'm not really okay with that. And it's not, sometimes they're just not blatant things that so and so is like, nasty or unkind or whatever. It's really that I really am tolerating the fact that somebody is not hearing me. I don't feel validated by that person.
I had a friend who, when I asked that question, what was interesting was they were tired of being the emotional caretaker for their family. And I thought, wow, I had to stop and think about that one, and how many there are usually certain personalities within families where one person seems to be the emotional caretaker of the family. I was like, how interesting is that, to give voice to something that seemed pretty big to me, and
Absolutely.
needing a
Hmm.
few difficult conversations, or hopefully not too difficult, but having a few conversations about maybe that's not going to be the same way going forward.
And in the list, when you think about what you're tolerating, you can actually break that down because you're not tolerating the fact that somebody isn't keeping up their end of their promise to you to help you out with so and so, or somebody tolerating the fact that you have to take over and be in charge of everything and not have people come up with their own ideas, that they all look to you and everything falls on your shoulders. Even they're tolerating you have to do all the dishes. You have to do all the cooking. I mean, there's tons of different things that you could be tolerating with your friends, your family, at the workplace. I mean, the list is endless. So what I like to suggest is that people just kind of look over your list and circle like a few of the ones that are really the most meaningful. They may not sound like the most important ones, but the ones that really get to you, things that you're tolerating that you really are done. And then that's when the work starts, because just pick one and we can start to talk about boundaries. Sometimes this leads to a discussion about boundaries. What can you do so that you're not tolerating that anymore?
It's a tough one, especially if it's been an ongoing pattern. It can come as a surprise to the other person or people. Like, what do you mean? You've always been you've always brought the buffet dinner or something. I don't know what it is. What do you mean? And the other parties or person can just be taken by surprise and not realize that secretly inside this was an issue for you. And so to me, that's all about speaking up and being honest with everybody. I just see a lot of people who sacrifice themselves in these things, and then that, like, oh, not that big a deal. Well, I don't have signs of Sharon. I don't have any proof, but I don't think it leads to being healthier by swallowing all these kinds of things. And if you've already got an autoimmune condition, the last thing you need to do is add this additional emotional pressure on yourself.
Absolutely. That's so smart. Yes. And it also is a lot is in the presentation and in of like, if you're setting a boundary or you're telling people, okay, it's not like I've never liked to do this and I'm never doing it again. I mean, there's there's also different ways to introduce the topic to people. Like, let's like for now, let's start a new tradition where we all take turns bringing something or preparing this or that, instead of like, I have to do it all myself, for instance,
Mhm.
or suggesting like, I'm feeling really tired lately. I need to rest a little bit and our family needs to do this or that. What are some ideas that you guys have for picking up some of the slack and helping out So you can always pose it as a question and introduce the concept that way instead of, saying, we've always done it this way and that's it. It has to do with the introduction of it, unless that doesn't work. And then you have to be a little bit more blatant because otherwise you're going to turn into a people pleaser, as you said.
I'm not sure I said that exact words, but I know what a people pleaser is. And
Yeah, you're just saying
that-
yes. You're just saying yes when you really mean no.
exactly.
And you're putting other people's needs and their wants instead of your own.
And that's important because you see people do that a lot with their kids. And yes, you should take care of your kids. I'm not saying that. But when
Right.
you're sacrificing yourself at every turn for your kid, you're not teaching them anything. You're not teaching them how to care for themselves as they grow older and go out on their own. There are certain things that people should experience in their life, whether it's making their own breakfast even, or they forgot their lunch. Oh, well, they'll have
Yeah.
to figure it out.
Yes, absolutely. That's really a good point. It's hard for a parent, depending on the age and depending where they are, not to be a people pleaser because you're kind of nurturing your children. And that's kind of something that is like culturally expected. And also, get a lot of pleasure out of that. So for friends and people that really are outside of your, let's say, out of your family or your kids, let's say, and you're just agreeing to volunteer to do so many things or to do everything because you said yes before. So they said, oh, okay, well, Sharon will do it. She did it before, right?
Yeah, I've heard
You
that.
taught people how to may have expectations of you when you have other things to do with your time and you need to take care of yourself. So you just need to know when enough is enough and to say, no, I can't this time or no right now. And then like what we said, we've talked about saying no to other people means saying yes to yourself many times.
Absolutely. And depending on how far out in the circle you go, and you're saying yes to some acquaintance of acquaintance out there that's going to take your being on a committee or whatever. And I'm not saying you can't be on those committees. I'm just saying, think about it. How committed are you way out there? Because you're saying yes to other things that you're having to say no to some, either yourself or some of the people that mean the most in your world. I've heard people say, oh, I'll say no to my husband because he'll understand. I'm like, really? How often are you making him understand? How often are you saying yes to people and taking your time and your energy and your resources and saying no to something that's actually not really more important to you? Look at that too. Like, what is the balance between how far out into the world are they and what am I giving up to say yes out there? Am I giving up something that means more to me in my inner circle or my time to myself?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And women are raised to be people pleasers to a large degree. It's kind of like you should be helping this person and making sure that person's comfortable and caretaking that person. And, oh, you can do a fever. I find that it's a little bit more skewed towards females because they are maybe a little bit more accepting and a lot of these chores fall in their realm, I think. And it's harder for women to stand up, I think, a lot of times to see this pattern of what they've actually got themselves into with their husband, with their partner, with their friends. And after a while, it's very easy to start to resent those people because you feel it's just not balanced.
And yet you've trained them to expect that. And that's a funny thing.
Exactly.
It's that funny
Exactly.
dichotomy about it doing something. And we're not saying don't do things, but it's just this idea of expectation from someone else. Well, Sharon's always done that. So why is she upset now? It's a little harder to explain that what was the tipping point. And one of the things that when we were talking about women in particular, there are historical things that women are supposed to do. And I'm putting that in air quotes, this idea of
Yes.
the laundry or the dinner or the bulk of the childcare. And then, you know, having those discussions is really important too. At what point I got really upset with someone the other day who said, he was going to go babysit his kids. And we have a close enough friendship that I was like, excuse me, what? You don't babysit your own kids. So
Yeah, right. I see what you're saying. Absolutely. Yeah.
I guess I had more permission to clear my throat and say something. I'm not sure his wife would have done that, but I haven't talked to her, but maybe she would appreciate the fact that somebody did clear their throat and go, excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes people just kind of let that go. They don't notice that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like an interesting point.
Which brings me up to one of your favorite is watch your words. I know you
Yeah.
talk a lot about watching our words.
Yes, being mindful about those things. Absolutely. Like saying, I want to do this rather than I should do this or I get to do this. Or another big thing is saying instead of I should do this is I could do this. That's always the best way of changing a simple sentence to be more realistic.
Yeah.
And all those shoulds are always a problem.
Always and never big problem words too. I never do that. I always do that. Or they always do that. They never do that. I like to play a little game with myself of calling myself on the carpet when always and never come out of my mouth. I'll stop and usually it's internally. I don't say it externally. It's like always though happens. I
Yeah.
can't name one time that it didn't happen. And then internally I start to laugh a little bit at myself like, yeah, well, that doesn't always happen that way.
Or you never do this. That sense. Yeah.
We need to take a quick commercial break on that never do this. And if I don't do it now, we'll never get it done.
Right.
We're way over. So everybody, we'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
The Autoimmune Hour will return after these messages from our sponsors. It's great sponsors like these that keep this show coming to you every week. Be sure and stop by understandingautoimmune.com to learn more.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance. Say hi, guys. When I adopted them, I discovered that they both have incredible personalities. Chance's sole purpose in life is to love and to be loved. Frankie is a little bit of a scoundrel and always entertaining. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Sharon, and of course you know me from here on the Autoimmune Hour. Maybe you don't know I'm also an author. My latest book is for kids. It's Pinky Chenille and the Rainbow Hunters, a winner of a 5-star Reader's Favorite review. It's perfect for your early reader and a great bedtime story for your young adventurers. Check it out over at pinkychenille.com. That's PinkyChenille.com. See you there.
Research shows we apologize up to 10 times a day, and most of the time, we say sorry as a response to someone else's mistake. What if we thanked people instead of all that unnecessary apologizing? So instead of saying, sorry, I'm rambling, you say, thank you for listening. Join us at projectforgive.com, a free, non-religious resource on global forgiveness.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com and UnderstandingAutoimmune.com. And tonight we're here with Roberta Mittman, and I like to call her our in-house coach who talks about all things for us to, get in touch with who we are and define our lives and develop the lives that we want, create the lives that we want. And Roberta has this wonderful process called rescripting. You can find out more about that at robertamittman.com. Roberta, couple of other things that came to mind I was thinking about during the commercial break, besides weight loss, the other thing, at least maybe just my algorithm on the social media, is clutter. Seems to be a big topic of conversation the past year or so. I find this process of when I declutter, and I don't do it all at once, guys, but choose a process and do a small bit. It's interesting how much my energy changes when I have accomplished a small part of decluttering or making choices about what I surround myself with.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, you just hit my intention for 2024, which has to do with decluttering, both from mental clutter, physical clutter for sure, and just other things that really are drowning out so many other important things that have just kind of made a home either in my head or in my home or whatever. Just think of the bandwidth and the space that opens up when there's clarity and you can have organization and just things just kind of go so much smoother. I mean, if I could tell you how much time I spend looking for things that should be in their home, like in their folder, in that bowl, in that this, in that. I mean, honestly, I would be welcome to have that time back, but it's gone.
Absolutely. I try to be more mindful. That's one thing I started noticing when I get busy. Either I'll walk into the office or walk into the house and just lay my keys down. And then I was like, okay, where did my keys go? And then what's that, 5 or so minutes looking for my keys or whatever it is. And I tell myself, not 100% successful, but I tell myself each time when I walk in, the first thing I'm going to do is hang my keys on the hook. Trying to make it a routine is more helpful. I'm not 100% successful at it.
Absolutely. Well, everyone collects different things. I know some people that say, I have just too much of my foods, too much stuff in the pantry. I have too many papers, folders, and things that need to go. People have too many clothes and they can't figure out what to wear. I totally can appreciate and I honor all of that. And there's just working with somebody or setting up like a little bit, like doing like one drawer a day or this little pile a day. Or I worked with a clutter person at one time and their suggestion was just to set a timer and just do 15 minutes a day. And you'd be surprised what you can get accomplished in 15 minutes.
Wow, I like that too. Now, I do have a little side note. There was a really popular person who talked about joy and throwing out things. And I was talking to another person about it who did that process. They were telling me it was about 6 months after they did the process. And it was very fascinating because they took it so literally that if it didn't bring them joy, out it went. And then what had happened is out went sort of a beloved but long neglected stuffed animal from their childhood that had been in a box, in the back corner of your closet kind of thing. And what was interesting, they said, that's 6 months or so. It wasn't even a year. They said, all I could think about is, why did I do that? They didn't realize how much it meant to them until after they'd actually donated it somewhere else. It was interesting to me. So not that I'm an advocate of clutter, guys, but it doesn't necessarily just have to bring you joy. If you just want to keep it, keep it.
Yeah, there's a separate pile for that. It's kind of like not keep, not give away, but like it's kind of in the middle. And then you can go through it and decide what you want to retrieve or actually after you've thought about it a while, that kind of thing. The other thing would be what kind of space can you open up in your head and the flow, which, is a great word, that you can have when you don't have all of that mental clutter, like cycling through your mind all the time. And it's whether or not it's like for people pleasing or trying to figure out what's your next best step with life, or in a direction. This kind of gives you a lot more air around things. And it's not just like you have to go from one thing to another, to another, to another, to another. It gives you a chance to figure things out. Otherwise, if things are just so cluttered, it's just hard to like sit through it and find out what's important. You're dealing with juggling too many things.
Absolutely. Decluttering your calendar. So that'd be a good thing for me to consider. But what you mentioned too was about the thought. I was thinking how sometimes when I'm doing mindless things like showering, that doesn't take a lot of mental capacity for me. I don't have to think about it. I've done it a long time. Or brush your teeth. It doesn't take a lot of how am I going to do this kind of capacity. It's interesting that I get some of my best thoughts when my mind is decluttered during those moments of just doing something like a shower or brush your teeth. Some amazing how all of a sudden, oh, that's the thing I was trying to remember, or that's a great way to solve that problem pops into my head. When I give the space, what I notice the easiest space is when I'm doing, as I said, mindless things that don't take a lot of conscious thought because I've done them repetitively for so many years.
Absolutely. I mean, I just know that for myself, I tend to have too many to-dos.
Oh, yeah.
And my lists have lists of lists. And I feel like I just want to be less busy and focus on some of the more important things. And to me, that's really a decluttering process. And that's one of the things I'd like to do in addition to all the other stuff. But I feel like, no, after a while, you just don't need all that stuff. And sometimes life is just simpler and easy and it just is manageable.
I love that. We're down to just about 5 minutes, Roberta. Final thoughts that you would like to share with people?
Well, I have two things. The first thing is that, and thank you for asking. The first thing I think is to think about this at the beginning of the year if you're trying to figure out like what your goals are, whatever, just to fill in the blank of the sentence that says, I wish I had the courage to.
Oh, I love that.
That would be a really nice way to help people to formulate a really great goal or something to work towards. And my last thoughts are with the coming year is that for people to know, I hold the space for everyone to be doing such a great job and to relax into the fact that they really are in a great place, even though it doesn't seem or feel that way, that there's so much opportunity and abundance and happiness available to everybody wherever they are. And I really truly believe that once somebody steps into that thought, their vibration is better and they attract better things, more positive things in the world. Rather than look for the negatives, they're collecting evidence for the positive about what's really working out. And that is my wish for everybody in the next year, to be able to start collecting all the evidence about what's really working out for them.
I love that. I love that. I know you and I have talked also about, and I think it's important to add to our thoughts during this time, is how would we define ourselves if we weren't defining ourselves by the diagnosis?
Right. Exactly.
I think that's a critical.
So good.
ask, or maybe you're not defining yourself by your diagnosis, but oftentimes I find I have, and they'll put in the word, the diagnosis. And this time of year where we're thinking about intention and resolution, wanting change and being open to change, I wish I had the courage to. And what would I say about myself if I wasn't saying about my diagnosis? Too often people get stuck in the medical. They'll say, how are you doing? And maybe the other party wasn't asking that specific. And all of a sudden you hear somebody unload about, oh, well, I just had this and that and this and this, and it's all physical. So I know we can get caught in that trap, community. I understand that. But how would we define ourselves if we weren't defining ourselves by our diagnosis? And it didn't start with I am a specific issue or physical problem, or I have. How else can we define ourselves?
It's such an important question. And I think it's up to everybody to find those qualities that make them special and make them unique. And it's not a result of having or not having a specific disease or symptom. It's just part of the makeup of that individual. And that is there regardless, even if it seems overshadowed by a condition or something. It hasn't disappeared. It's still there.
Right. And find that and cultivate that. That's what I'm going to do this year, is continue to find that and cultivate that. I know that was my driving force that back in 2015, January 2015, starting the Autoimmune Hour, was to find out more about autoimmune for sure, but also there's more to life than autoimmune. And I want people to realize that you're not your diagnosis. And thank you, community, for being here, and dear friend Roberta Mittman for being here to talk about rescripting our lives. Check out our websites. It's robertamittman.com and rescriptyourlifenow.com. Is that correct?
Correct. That's perfect. Thanks.
Rescriptyourlifenow.com. If you want someone to guide you and get an accountability partner or guide you with some clarity on some of the things we talked about this evening. So everyone, have a great new year. And see you in 2024. It sounds so strange. I don't know where 2023 went. But anyway, have a great week, whatever adventures, and we'll see you next week. Enjoy.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, including the websites understandingautoimmune.com and lifeinterruptedradio.com, plus social media, is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, and its websites, and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes.
For the next few minutes, we'll be providing a guided meditation. Meditation is a positive way to help reset your day and does require specific, targeted attention and focus. Please do not drive or operate machinery during this time. As we say here, drive when you drive and meditate when you meditate.
In the next few moments, take a nice, deep breath. Oh, and let it out with a sigh. Shake out your fingers, and your arms, and your shoulders. And keep breathing, enjoying that breath as you kind of shake it all out. Let it go. Just look around a little bit right now, wherever you are. Notice what you're grateful for. Could be anything. Could even be the color of the sky today, the sweet smell of the flowers, the breeze on your face, the people you're with, the place you're at. Could be anything and everything. Wow. Take stock of a few things maybe that you don't see right now, but you're grateful for. Maybe it's somebody in your life that isn't here with you now. Some place. That's right. Shake everything out and just take stock of that gratitude list that we're building. That's right. Just shake it out. Shake everything out And continue to add to that gratitude list that you're building. That's right. Wow. Quite a list. That's right. What are you grateful for about yourself? Add that to this growing gratitude list. Don't be shy. Don't be humble. Come on. Take a moment right now, starting at the top of that list. Remember, those were the things that you saw right there near you. And count them down, anchoring each one with a beautiful breath. Number 1. Number 2. Continue on down your list of the things that are right there with you. Anchoring each one with a breath and let it out with a sigh. Allowing enough time to get through the whole list right now. Now start with the list for yourself. Begin to list those things you're grateful for about yourself and anchor each one with a nice deep breath. Just right. That's right. Even being grateful for this moment right here, right now, feeling every bit of you alive and well, feeling healing and soothing and calming energy just tingle throughout you. Getting stronger with each breath as your gratitude begins to grow. Wow, what a list. What a lucky person. That's right. Wow. And coming right back now, full of energy, happy to be here, and feeling grateful. Wow, welcome back. Go in gratitude and enjoy your day.